Nobody but me. Ha 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 ha.
The Residents are an American art collective best known for their avant-garde music and multimedia works. They started as a group of high school friends in Shreveport, Louisiana. They started making amateur home recordings in 1965. In 1966, they decided to travel to San Francisco to join the budding hippie movement there. However, their truck broke down in San Mateo, California, so they decided to stay there. They named themselves the Residents after a rejection slip sent to them by Warner Brothers. So, over the years, they've made many avant-garde works of art of various amounts of strangeness, including releasing about 50 music albums. Mostly who they are as a secret. They don't give interviews, and at times their work has been deliberately provocative. Hi, my name's Dan. So this was the first album by the Residents, and it's not my first encounter with them, and in fact, it's not my first encounter with this album because I have reviewed it before when I had a blog. I did a review of this album. So let's have some information. It was recorded in a home studio in LA. It was recorded in mono and constructed by using overdubs. And in fact, they didn't compose things beforehand. They just did it through doing the overdubs. Some tracks are very mangled versions of other people's songs. For example, Boots is a version of These Boots Are Made for Walking, which I think was Nancy Sinatra. So let's talk a little bit about experimental music in kind of more general terms. Um, so I would say that experimental almost anything is a good thing um, in principle, and that expanding the horizons of any art form or of science or uh, lots of areas in life is definitely a good thing. This doesn't necessarily mean that the things that are created that are experiments have got the artistic qualities for general consumption that commercial music, for example, would have. Um, so sometimes the norms that are challenged in experimental music are the norms of quality. And I think that that was definitely, I would say that's the case on this album. The norms of other things as well. Um, but so there's certainly elements of this album that are out of tune, that are badly recorded, that are out of time, that have strange mixes and noises going on. It deliberately avoids the idea of a quality music recording, and presumably does so in order to make some kind of statement or to experiment with what music could be like if you didn't. Okay. The thing about being doing an experiment in being bad is that it's an easy win. So if you think about kind of painting, for example, what's the difference between something that is thought of as being, having high artistic merit, but is a load of splashes of paint on a piece of canvas, and just if I splash some paint on a piece of canvas, and why is it that one is highly regarded and mine would just be thought of as somebody's just splashed some paint on a piece of canvas? So similarly, where is the boundary between what is just being bad at recording music and what is art and what is experimental? And I think that this is something that I struggle with the idea of, is there a line? What is the line? And I'm sure the line's different for different people, and that's okay. This is compounded by the problem that, in fact, there is some music that I think is really good music, which is technically not necessarily hugely proficient. Okay, so I think of, for example, uh, bits of punk that I really like, and are deliberately rejecting the idea of very produced music. And in fact, at the moment, where the chart pop music is so produced, there is the other side of more acoustic music and much more kind of natural feeling music, which is a reaction against that. But how far do you go in that reaction? Another thing that I think is good, although very obviously not brilliantly recorded, is the duck song, which has been an internet phenomenon. And there are things that are good, but they have different qualities rather than being musical quality in that sense. So the question, yeah, it's a difficult question. I have to accept, though, that the job that I've set myself in terms of doing these reviews is to do reviews for the fictitious idea of an average listener. So I'm not really thinking I'm catering to think about the extreme the other way, is an elitist who thinks that difficult listening is sophisticated listening, and so embraces anything that other people would reject because they feel that this makes them more sophisticated as a listener. And I think that was maybe overstating it in some ways, but it's not my job to say whether this is art or not. It's my job to say whether people will enjoy listening to it or not. And I think for me and for many people, there's a minimal threshold of technical competence which you need for music, and this music does not reach that minimum threshold. So mostly I just found it annoying. Now let's just talk a little bit about the singing very briefly, because the singing is often done in quite strange voices, which is a thing that, well, it reminds me of certainly some of Frank Zappa's work, but also Captain Beefheart, who was a can I say friend of Frank Zappa's? I know that wasn't always true. And there was a tendency to use these strange voices. It's also particularly about absurdist and banal things. There's a track called Something About Some Kind of Spotted Bean. And this is, again, quite similar to some of Frank Zappa's work. Apparently this is Dadaist. Don't know what that means, but there's definitely a thing here of singing in a strange voice so that you know that it's parody. Okay, so my general opinion, not a great fan, and it irritated me somewhat. I didn't actually find it as annoying as some things that I've listened to. Just not really wanting to seek this out for my own listening pleasure, I would say. And unless you're into kind of extreme music in the sense of this, so there's music that's called easy listening. I call this difficult listening. It's not accessible. But if you want to tell me why this is brilliant, please do so through the comments box. If you want to tell me what an idiot I am, that's fine. I'm very happy for that to happen. Or if you want to agree with me and you want to finally say, somebody finally said this isn't great, then I'd love to hear that as well. Talk to me, please, through the comments box. That's it from me for now.
What?